Welcome back to Kiesel News, everybody. Today, I'm going to be giving my rapid fire thoughts on every game announced at the Indie World Showcase. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be interested in every single one, so that's why I'm not doing a full on review or video of the Indie World Showcase. I'm just going to give my rapid thoughts. Unfortunately, Hollow Knight Silksong was not announced like we were, or at least I was hoping due to the Xbox listing, but that's beside the point. Let's get into this. First up is Little Kitty Big City. Now, I think this game looks pretty fun. It reminds me somewhat of Untitled Goose Game. Not just in the fact that you play as an animal, obviously, but just the shenanigans you're getting up to, and also just the art style as well. And there's also a lot of interesting cosmetics that you can get. So, all in all, I think this was one of my favorite games that was announced. Now, the interesting thing about Yars Rising is that it is a reimagining of a game from 42 years ago that was on the Atari. So it's breaking the record for longest break in a series. So that's already interesting in itself. But the fact that it's a Metroidvania is definitely going to appeal to a lot of people. Especially since the original wasn't even a Metroidvania. It was just like a shooter. I'll put up an image. Yes, it was like a shoot 'em up. If you want to compare it to a basic thing, I guess like Space Invaders is one that everybody knows. But regardless, it's cool to see a series that's so dormant appear once again. Next thing you know, we're gonna get a Pong sequel. The next game that is also definitely high up on my list is Refined Self. The main gimmick about this game is that at the end of it will reveal your personality. So it depends on the choices you make, much like a visual novel. Though I doubt this is a visual novel, especially since we actually see full-on gameplay in this game. So the story itself actually seems interesting too. But you can actually pick up this game right now on Steam, I saw. So maybe I'll just pick it up on Steam instead. Now, as you can probably tell by now, I have a bias towards narrative games. So Sticky Business doesn't really apply to me all that much. It kind of reminds me of like a mobile game mixed with Papers, Please, I guess is what comes to my mind because of how you're dealing with customers and you have to do what they want, really. That's the only similarity to Papers, Please, but that's the first game I could think of. Anton Blast looks very, very fun. It kind of reminds me of Broforce in a way. That's the first game that comes to mind. Also, Cuphead with the way the boss fights look structured. It having, intense action, never really letting up, and also the art style too. The art style is very similar. Next up, we have Valley Peaks, which is a climbing game. Obviously, similarities to Only Up, Getting Over It, all those types of games. But it definitely seems to differentiate itself, especially with the art style. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is definitely my most anticipated game from this by far. And it's coming out May 16th. Basically, it's a huge narrative, so there's my bias there. I also really appreciate the noir vibe and just the overall creepy vibe of the game in general. The only thing that might hold me back from it personally is the developers have stated that it's going to be very, very difficult, and the puzzles are very intricate. So, if I'm too much of a dumbass or just bad at video games, like I am, even though I love them, I'm terrible at video games, I probably won't have much fun with it. So, I'll probably watch a playthrough instead, to be honest. Please support this game, though, I beg you. We need to show indie developers that their efforts to create actual unique experiences are appreciated. Next, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate, which was originally an Apple Arcade exclusive. And the gameplay seems relatively well thought out, especially with you being able to unlock different abilities for each of the turtles, and they each have different skill sets. But the thing that's turning me off about this game, bringing back my narrative bias, is it's just like, oh, we have to find Master Splinter, and that's the only story in the game whatsoever. And I feel like with an IP like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you should really capitalize on an opportunity to tell a story. This next game, Europa, gives me huge Breath of the Wild vibes, which is definitely a compliment. Obviously, it's not as big in scale, but I'm not saying it needs to be. But just the base premise of this guy being the sole survivor, or relative sole survivor at least, in this society, and he has to accomplish puzzles and explore the world. That just sounds like Zelda to me, and that's great. Another similarity is just the sheer amount of biomes that this game has. You're in a winter area, you're in a forest, you're in a sky, you're in an area with temple, snowstorms, you're constantly gliding, and there even looks to be areas that resemble the towers in Breath of the Wild. So it's clearly going for a Breath of the Wild influence, which is very, very good. I should clarify that when I'm comparing these indie games to these AAA games, it's not because I only see value in AAA games, so these indie games have to be just like the AAA games. No, that's not what I mean. But I just like to have games as a base point, and I think everyone can agree with that. And I mean, yeah, you're being compared to good AAA games. That's a good thing. The fact that you can make a game that resembles what a huge team of devs did with just a small team or even just yourself is remarkable. Next up, we have Cat Quest 3, and honestly, this game's pissing me off. It doesn't look bad at all. It looks pretty fun. You're basically a pirate cat, it seems like, and you're on your ship taking out pirates. But I'm just pissed off because I've seen this game in like 10 different presentations. Probably like 5 different indie worlds. I've seen it in Xbox Showcase, maybe even PlayStation Showcase as well. Like, I just want it to come out so it can stop taking up time in the damn presentations. Next, we have Stitch, which also doesn't really look like my type of game, but it seems like a nice little cozy game. You just stitch objects together. I can definitely see, like, my mom playing this game or it being a nice game for the family, which is always good to have those, especially on a Nintendo console. The game will also have daily puzzles, so there'll be a lot of content for those looking for it. They're also based on real life events as well, a lot of these events. So they showed like uh, a drawing of Shakespeare, so you like stitch a picture of Shakespeare. So very cool. I'm probably the only one who thinks Shakespeare is cool, but regardless. Animal Well is a puzzle game. What really stands out is the style. It looks a lot like Undertale mixed with There Is No Game, which are actually both indie games. So instead of being a AAA game similarity, it's actually similar to other indie games. So that's cool. Bzzd, we don't really have a lot of information on. I like the classic art style and the Metroidvania like gameplay, but that's about all that I can say about it. Duck Detective looks fun, but they only showed it in a sizzle reel along with Buzzed and a couple of the other games, so that's why we don't have a lot of information on it. They also showed another Crab's Treasure in the sizzle reel, uh, which was in the partner showcase back in February. So it's good to see that it's still coming out on track. And the last announcement was SteamWorld Heist 2. I've definitely seen people play this game before, but I don't think I'll pick it up, especially since I haven't played the first one. I can definitely see why they saved it for last, though, as there's definitely a lot of content in the game with character customization, turn-based gunfights, combat with vessels, so that just blows that other cat pirate game out of the water. So, yeah, I can definitely see why they saved it for the big final thing. But, justice for Silksong!